Call the meeting of the Planning and Zoning Committee on the July the 22nd to order, and we're gonna do a little different. We're gonna start off with a prayer. Robert, will you lead us in prayer, please?
Y'all join me. Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Thank you for the sunshine and the warmth that we feel, and we know that you're in control of the weather. Father, as we approach some issues tonight, may we approach it with wisdom and guidance from you. May we make the decisions that are best for the citizens of the entire county, not just for a select area. So Father, just look over us, watch over us, give us the right words to say. We give you all the praise, honor, and glory, and pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
We have minutes.
Do. I've got minutes.
Yeah,
All right.
I assume that.
Well, okay, yes.
You got a motion?
Do we have a
I got
motion?
a slide amendment.
Okay, we have a amendment for minutes.
Yeah.
Bobby?
On the last page, and since it was something I said, I think it's a public act instead of a private act.
Is there a change?
Yeah, it needs to say public.
Where,
Second to last paragraph.
Second last paragraph.
Next to last.
Private to public.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't a private act. We would never ask for that private act, I don't know.
We don't have vote with it, Mike.
No, just approve your minutes, we county, I'll fix it.
Okay.
Motion, make a motion to
Got a
approve.
motion approved,
Second.
second, got a second. Do we have discussion? No discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Do we have anybody from the public wants to make comment on what's on the agenda for tonight? There's two issues on the agenda. Yes, sir?
Yeah, yes, sir. My name is Michael Swope, I live on 1412 Hallway, Mr. Haskell Evans District. I'd just like to say that with the whole PUD thing that's on the agenda for the agricultural areas, the public is not in favor of that. Everybody in every single commissioner's district is not in favor of that. They want agricultural preservation, and building neighborhoods in people's, in farmland areas is not conducive to agricultural preservation. So I'd just like y'all to consider that when moving forward with how you're gonna proceed with that tonight.
Thank you very much. Anybody else like to make a comment? Yes,
Mr.
sir, Mr.
Chairman.
Neal?
Perry Nail, 1000 Murphy Lane, Lebanon, Tennessee. I don't really know what's on the agenda, but I'm assuming that regarding, as Mr. Swope said, the PUD in A1, and I am not in favor of that. I want to read one quick comment. I'll try to make this is in our county zoning book that you guys, I guess, wrote or amended or whatever. But anyway, on page 196, there's a whole.
It was written in 1977.
Well, it was updated 2023, but anyway,
Okay.
so, but anyway, there's a whole big page in there about PUDs, but a whole big chapter. But I want to read just one comment. It says, agricultural zoned areas typically lack sufficient required infrastructure to support development of this intensity present within planned unit developments. So I just, that's y'all's kind of own rule book where you're saying that PUDs do not belong in A1. They lack sufficient required infrastructure. And I would just want to go along with that. One more comment, and Christopher can clean this up a little for me if I'm misleading on this a little bit. There's been, for the past year, they've been working really hard on the new 20-year land use plan. One of the guiding visions or the mission statement for that, for the county says provide directions for new growth, maximize economic opportunities while preserving the agricultural lands and open spaces and conserving natural resources in Wilson County. That was kind of the mission statement for the 20-year land use plan. I think that speaks to preserving agriculture in the A1 zone. Community engagement says here there was over 1,800 people that participated on the land use plan through online surveys, one thing and another. This paper here may be a little out of context, but it's a part of that. It says goal number 1, preserving rural character and farmland. And this ranked very high among these 1,800 people that participated. The 5th comment on here says limit high density and non-agricultural development to prevent urban sprawl and protect rural landscapes. I think that says it all in that one comment right there.
thank you very much for your comments. You're right on target, sir.
Well, thank you for allowing me to speak.
You're more welcome, sir, and I'd like to ask Diane Weathers, I don't want to make an announcement about myself, cause it seemed braggadocious. Would you share, based on what you just said?
Mr. McFarland is, the 7th farm to receive Century Farm status as of today. Goes back to 1800,
2 centuries.
2 centuries, that's true, because it goes back to
Even better, 2
1800.
centuries.
And I started that farm and it was hard going back in the day.
And he was lazy and he wouldn't fill the paperwork out before he got it done.
Sound like some other people we know.
And for the benefit of the chairman who hasn't eaten today for his welfare and so forth, if we can, let's kind of keep all the, extemporaneous comments down and try to get focused on what we're trying to do as he leads us through, the 2 subjects that we have, with maybe keeping down to 20, 25, 30 minutes each. If that's okay with me. Have I missed anything on the front end, Mike, for protocol? We got, have I missed anything on for protocol, we got an announcement? Matt, hey, okay, with that, Chris, you want to start in? We'll look at the AFT to start with.
Okay, the first item is reviewing an increase of data facilities tax in the AFT in the County Private Act. Review of data for residential and commercial, removing the restriction that commercial AFT is tied to the building permit. That was the only vote that took place last month, was on the decision of the commercial AFT was to untie it from the building permit fee. The other data has been presented by Lauren Breeze. JCU Director Corey Johns has put a slide together about as additional information for you all if you wish to hear that before you make any other actions on the private act.
Did you inform Corey Johns he has 3 minutes only to speak?
I do not, but you can.
Mr. Johns, would you like to address the committee?
I would like a few more moments than 3, if I may.
I'm gonna let you sit here so you can pan
Okay.
the slides.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. So at the request of this committee, we took a look and did a little analysis here on some things. So just some items for your consideration. First of all, I'll pass these out if I can. This is information on where we are comparable. So looking at commercial AFTs across Middle Tennessee. So obviously we currently mirror building permits with $5,000 minimum. Dixon County's commercial rate is 25 cents a square foot for commercial, 15 cents for industrial. What's interesting is they say heated and cooled. I'm not sure how they apply that because some of those may not be heated or cooled. That's their problem. Murray County recently conformed to the County Powers Act. And I'm going to talk more about this policy, and I've got some data which suggests that I don't think that it is the wisest from my perspective. They're at $1.50 square foot, but that caps at 150,000 square feet. I'll come back to that later, but that gives a max of $225,000. Robertson County is currently at 30 cents a square foot. Rutherford, similar to the County Powers Act, along with Trousdale. Sumner, just to the north, is at 40 cents a square foot, and Williamson County is currently at 34 cents a square foot on their rate. So looking at historical analysis, what we did is I went back and I looked at all of our economic development recruitment projects, and I got to give a big shout out. Declan back here is interning with us this summer. He has done a lot of crunching on this data to help us get this into a salient manner. So really grateful for his talents and time invested in this. Across the 124 economic development recruitment projects that our office saw during the same time period as this analysis, and I will send these around, that aligns with the AFT that we looked at back in 2020. 64 of those had what I'll call heavy infrastructure needs. So that meant there was a heavy water, heavy sewer, an electrical need, maybe a substation, something specific about a road access that was extraordinary, so that made it stand out. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this graph to the bottom here, but what I would like you to see is this. So the orange bars are going to be all of the projects that fell within those square footages. So 50,000 square foot, request, 100,000, 150, 200, so on and so forth. So orange is gonna be all projects. The blue is gonna be the amount that qualified for this heavy infrastructure need, right? So what I'd like to direct your attention to is that there's a bit of a concentration right in this area here. Not so many comparatively here, and not a lot comparatively, but there is a spike, and it's right in this range. Now, these are proportionally more likely, but they're still such small value. So I want to move off of that. You can look at that and views on it this evening if you want to, but I want us to look at it this way. So here's where we're starting. These are the buildings under 50,000 square feet, 100,000, 150, 200,000, 250, 500,000, 750,000, a million, and 1.5 million or above. So this is the breakdown of sort of how those, again, only the ones that had heavier utilities or infrastructure needs. So when we break that out, this is really kind of what we find. This historical analysis suggests that 67% of our heavy infrastructure recruitment projects required more than 150,000 square feet. So I'm going to go back briefly to that cap under the county towers. Why on earth would we say 2/3 of the most likely heavy utility users should be exempt for their project needs, which is what that would do? So only 27% of the heavy infrastructure projects required less than 150,000 square feet of space that they were seeking. 17% required more than 500,000 square feet, but 75% of those fell within that 100 to 500,000 square foot range. And remember, that's the kind of little bracket sort of almost in the middle that I asked you to look at down there. So my suggestion would be that we focus on that piece. So where to land? Key considerations are how we remain competitive. We don't want to price ourselves out of the market. Commercial growth and commercial tax revenue is incredibly important to this county, to providing services to our constituency, and keeping up with the costs of growth. That said, at our current tax rate, what you have on this sheet, if you can read that, I'm kind of getting to that age where my eyes used to have no problem with this, and now I need a second. So thank you. So in those green columns, you got two items there. You got about 8 cents a square foot, and you got about 10 cents a square foot. What that is the 8 cents a square foot is an actual equivalence of revenue that we have collected since 2020 through our current adequate facilities tax rate. Oops. The 10 cents is because, remember, $5,000 minimum was added halfway through that. So what Declan did for us is went back and normalized that and said, if that had been in application the entire time, what would the effective rate be? So basically, you can look at that whichever one you want to, but I think what it leads us to is there's ample room for growth. And y'all remember, like, I'm a business recruiter for our community, right? There are a lot of people who would say I should be standing here like, with torches and pitchforks saying like, no, we got to keep this as low as possible. But, I'm also, part of my role is also to look out for the well-being of this community. And we're all in that boat together. That said, it is essential to maintain a competitive advantage, particularly as it relates to our peers, right? So when we look at who that is, interestingly enough, we don't tend to come down at the home stretch with a lot of projects that us and Sumner, right? It's odd, but it just doesn't work out that way. Robertson, Portland, Rutherford, absolutely, and Murray, Murray County. A lot of projects that come look at us, come look at Murray. We got one in this week that's looking at a site we have, and then they're going to Dixon. So those are our competitors, I think. Once the project's decided in Middle Tennessee or it's refining within that, that's really where we're looking at. So I think it's important to keep those folks in mind from a sealing the deal perspective and being able to continue to win projects while also, right-sizing this, I guess is how we would, maybe would say it. So I'm
Is
sorry,
that your recommendation?
well, I'm getting there.
Okay.
So,
Got 2 more minutes.
one thing, thank you, okay, thank you. I can work at that pace. I think one thing I'd strongly suggest is that we lower the rate and broaden the base. That's just good public policy, anywhere you look at, right? So, we're capped by the cap, and we need to think about that. Rutherford, Murray, Trousdale, with that 150, they're only gonna collect $225,000, no matter how big, the facility is. So looking at that and looking at that, really, the problem area for us, for the most part, in terms of putting stress on infrastructure, goes up to, for the most part, about 500,000 square feet. So what that comes out to stay at $225,000 cap, if we were to look at a cap at 45 cents a square foot, that would keep us very in a competitive advantage position compared to our peers, while also realizing important revenue collections. That would also notably increase the current effective rate by more than 4 times, right? And that's using the 10-cent figure. It's even more than that at the 8-cent figure. In this same period that we looked at back to 2020, if the rate had been 45 cents a square foot, capped at 500,000 square feet, it would have generated an additional $3 million in added tax revenues. And this is important. That's only for development in the unincorporated areas of the county. That's probably $10 million. I don't have that data in the same way to be able to present to you for developments in Mount Juliet, Lebanon, and Watertown, but I have a strong conviction that they're probably at least double that amount collectively. So we're probably talking about an extra $10 million there. So final considerations, musings on minimums, I know there's some pain that's been expressed around where the current minimum is. Does a minimum make sense at all? If so, how low is too low? How high is too high? To tier or not to tier? We did mention that those really large projects, $1.5 million, that while there's not as many of them, they tend to have a strong correlation to heavier. So is there a supplemental tier that maybe needs to be on above a certain amount, right? But also keeping in mind how that skews our competitive position in consideration of the cap. So then there is, and this is sort of a policy recommendation. My parents will want me to throw that in, considering how much money I spent on school related to policy issues. But it's a story of Peter and Paul, right? Currently, our commercial facilities taxes are going, as I understand it, 2/3 to school debt and 1/3 to capital projects debt. Philosophically, it helps if folks have a stake to hold some skin in the game. So these taxes should support adequate facilities to some degree that are actually related to commercial projects, not just alleviating pressure primarily driven by residential growth. So one recommendation for your consideration would be to consider adding or establishing a commercial facilities fund as well. Maybe could take 1/3 of the additional revenue or something like that. That could go to roads. It could go to, if a project needed a substation for electrical needs, if it needed sewer access, last mile, if it needed broadband, if it needed some water enhancements, could be used for those
Where
types.
would that money come from? Because you got it 2/3, 1/3, that's 3/3.
Well, so I'm saying the current money. So of the, Jerry, I might have to borrow those glasses. Of the current, $732,856 that's been collected since 2020, 2/3 of that went to school facilities debt, 1/3 went to capital projects debt. So if we're talking about the roughly, well, to keep apples and apples, instead of 750,000, talking about 3.7 million, right?
Yeah.
So that's an additional 3 million if it were to go to 45 cents, capped at 500,000. So maybe 1/3 of that or 1 million of that. So that adds 2 more million into these areas, but have the third million go into something that would actually support adequate facilities for commercial needs, not ones related to primarily residential growth.
I'm thinking exactly the same way you're thinking. If we had the Maddox Simpson thing that took place 4 years ago, where they put the bond issue, put the sewer, the water in, and they came.
Yes, sir.
They came, Maddox Simpson was fully, if that were available to do the same thing on the Rock Bend racetrack area,
Yes, sir.
to keep support corn crops or
Mhm.
other things coming, then that would be a win-win for the county.
I'll tell you without a doubt, the largest barriers we have today to recruiting world-class projects with very high wages is sewer and water in certain areas. So I think having something like this that, and you know, and if, we can chew on this afterward. Maybe if we had something like this to lean on to help with some infrastructure costs, maybe we could keep our pilot off the table or lower.
Maybe we should do away with tax abatements.
Well,
That would give us some money to do growth.
that would make us not competitive for projects at all. We try to be real conservative with those, Commissioner. So,
Corey, I have to answer to the people that vote, you don't.
I understand.
And I've never met the first one in favor of tax abatement.
Sure.
Or recruiting more of this into the county, because the jobs and things that you brag about are not the quality that you present them as. I mean, we've had this argument 100 times, and we're always gonna
25%
have.
above what we're doing with Snyder, 125%.
Schneider is important to you, Bobby. I live out there in that part of the world. I listen to those folks. You live over in Mount Jude, and you don't have a clue what those folks
That's not
think
what I'm
about
saying.
that.
What I'm saying
You're
is-
not listening to them.
Yes, I am listening. I'm listening to what you just said. He's not recruiting above wage scale. That's not true. 125% of the average wage in Wilson County, and Wilson County's supposed to be the second most per capita in the
Just like
state.
the argument
This is
I had with him
125%
all
above
along.
that.
Let's take his numbers, let's pull the top 10% off, pull the top bottom percent off and re-average, and he won't do that with me.
Really does.
Now, you never
Probably
know,
worse.
but I've asked you many times.
So when I get that data, in fact, when I ran out of my actual 3 minutes, thank you, last night, I was about to tell you about a project that we submitted on yesterday, right? That one of the proposed in what was before y'all last night would have qualified for. The average wages on that project were $140,000 a year. I had that data, Commissioner. I took it out. You know what the average went to if I took the top 10% and the bottom 10% out? It went to $153,000
So
a
are
year.
we getting that project?
So we are working it. I submitted.
Them's the kind of projects I've begged you
Yes, sir.
for since the day I met you.
But the way this process works, I have to have inventory to sell, right? You don't go to the grocery store if you know they don't have bread, right? You go there to get things, right?
I can't tell you how to do your
So-
job, Corey, that's not what I'm
Sure,
here saying.
Sure. But let me back up on one thing. This is, we can do this in the hallway later. I totally agree with you. If there were federal legislation today, if there was constitutional amendment, in the United States Constitution to ban all state and local economic development incentives, I would lead the campaign against it. Because if that happened, market forces would win. Environments that were truly the most competitive would win most projects. What incentives do is they let less desirable markets be able to buy jobs that should come to more competitive places. We would win more if nobody could do incentives, but this is a bit like an SEC locker room, right? Does the University of Tennessee need a new practice facility or a new weight room? No, it's fantastic. But if Alabama or Florida or Georgia, they got one that's nicer and newer,
Competition.
it's competition. The reason we do incentives is to keep our competition from stealing good projects that we want to locate in this community. And that's why we manage it conservatively. And a lot, my job's a little bit art and science, right? The art of it is trying to figure out what's the last dollar that we have to put to seal the deal.
You're a horse trader. Mule trader probably. So, Bob, you're an old planner. Jump in on this number here, what you think.
Well,
Go around the room here.
the first thing I need to say, a disclaimer, because the road commission minutes were not in the packet. I'm hoping to get those in the packet every month from now going forward with any luck. But road commission did vote to ask for whatever we get, whatever we do to go to capital road building.
Where's the last slide? Last slide, please.
It is last slide. Oh, the second slide.
So I just want, I don't think they're asking this committee, I think they're gonna just ask the full commission for it. But that's, to his last slide point, I should say that. Something I think we ought to be conscious of when we're trying to raise something like this way up. Everybody's got to vote here, and if you don't like development, you got to vote it down. We just witnessed that happen last night. Each county commissioner has a vote to rezone, to amend land use plans, and if we don't want something, we don't have to take it. And last night was an example of that. But what I don't think this issue here of adding facilities tax is poison pilling, getting rid of development by raising it up so much nobody wants to come to Wilson
I
County.
don't think that's what we're in,
Well, I hope not. The other thing I wanna mention here too is if you look in TCA and you go through it, it's full of all these conflicts where people have been bad players in certain parts of the state and have caused legislation to change. And if you think the only way that we can lose our private act, a good private act, that we can raise our ad facilities taxes anytime we get 2/3 of a vote, you think the only way we can lose it is if we adopt this public chapter 990? There's another way we can lose it. We can lose it another way. We can abuse it. If we go to raising something astronomically high all at once, and a bunch of developers will start complaining to state officials, and everybody's jealous of our private act anyway, that thing go away with one daggum session of legislature. I've seen stuff like this happen before. So I guess my point in all this is, it's woefully low. 10 cents a square foot is ridiculous. It should be quite a bit more, okay? But we've been talking $1 to $2 a foot and uncap it and all that stuff. Well, in my district, right down the street from my district had a 5 million square foot building that came 3 years ago. Been $10 million. Which county would it have landed in? Wouldn't have been ours. I mean, of the 500,000 square foot ones, if it's $2 a square foot, for example, they're not gonna pay it, they're not gonna be here. There is a price that we can put on this that's just gonna be the same thing as just voting no when it comes to the full board. You can always do that. You can always turn it down. You don't want it, you can vote it down. Everybody's got the same vote. I just don't wanna see this thing used as a poison pill. Getting all excited about some money.
What's your recommendation?
What's your number?
Now, we have a motion on the floor already.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We already have a motion,
What motion?
the one that was made last meeting, that you seconded.
Refresh my memory.
It'll have to be made again.
Yeah,
Can't
wow.
carry it
I'll
on.
take care of it.
Thank you.
We never acted on it in any form.
We left.
We let
After more discussion, we went through that 10,000 square feet, made by Commissioner Jones, seconded by Commissioner McFarland. Passed Commissioner Jones with a second amendment to $1, no. After considerable amount of much discussion, motion to defer consideration of the issue to the next meeting was made by Commissioner Jones, seconded by Commissioner Weathers, and carried by a vote of 4-4. So there you go.
Got a motion on the floor, with players of the committee.
I would like to amend my own motion just a little bit. Instead, the motion for 10,000 square feet, that part of it be moved to 12,000, because that is where, in the commercial buildings, the sprinkler system has to come into play. So that would just make a logical point to set it there.
Any objection from the committee? Do we need to vote on that?
Well, he made the motion, now he's amending it, whoever made the second, if you agree to it.
I agree to it.
All right.
What you agree to?
Yeah, Johnson gave you a chance.
Just
Read it.
He made a motion,
Joe slept since.
10,000 to 12,000.
Well, where we said that we were gonna start at 10,000, raising it up.
You want 12.
You want 12.
It was brought to my attention that 12,000 is where they start requiring sprinkler systems in buildings. So wouldn't that make a logical point for us to change over from one race to another if you're trying to protect the small
So we have a motion
Let's
that's
not
been
get into
amended.
that money, we agree that.
Are you, s-
Oh,
so there's still,
Take that down.
so there's still, they're not doing anything with the minimum fee for square footage, it's just now, the
Yeah.
minimum is paid up to
50
12,000.
cents a foot, up to 12,000 feet.
Okay.
any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Uh,
Okay, now we got that out of the way, I think. Does anybody in the committee looking at the presentation behind me have a recommendation or have a suggestion on where we need to start? And I kinda
we
sense.
gotta vote on this motion, do we?
Well, do.
So we're setting it $2 then, is what you're saying?
That wasn't the motion.
But when the motion time,
I'm talking about this motion in our minutes. I wanted to amend from 10,000 to 12,000. Okay, that's what we just voted on in my mind.
Be accepted, so,
Is he accepted?
yeah.
Okay. So now we're back to the original motion of, 50 cents a foot up to 12,000, and then $2 a foot over 12,000.
Okay, on the original motion, who seconded it?
You did.
I seconded it again.
Thanks, sir.
Well, I'd like to make an amendment to that motion. I'd like to amend it to 50 cents and cap it at $300,000.
What's the financial impact of each of these?
Well, the financial, impact of my motion is we still have revenue. If we vote on the motion on the floor, I assume it is on the floor, you're the chair. If that is in fact on the floor carrying between two meetings, if that's what we're gonna go for, if we vote for that, it's not gonna matter, cause there ain't gonna be any money anyway. It's gonna go from 800,000, whatever we're getting at 10 cents a square foot down to probably nothing.
Well, I'll ask this question, Rutherford County with $1.50, correct?
$1.50 up
$1.50,
50,000 square feet.
Yeah, so that's,
$1.50.
yeah,
Okay.
so it's $1.50, yeah,
Cap-
capped at
capped at
150,000 square feet.
150,000.
Yeah, so the total fee that we
Which is
charge is
$225.
$225, right, yeah. So,
Tom?
My motion died for a lack of a second, so it's all yours.
Well, I mean, you have to act on one motion before you can have another motion.
Do we have a motion?
Yeah, we've still got the motion again, you made the second.
Okay,
He's motioning you second.
Well, let's vote it. I'd like to vote on that.
I'm sorry?
Let's vote that then. Call for the
Okay, all in
question.
favor say aye.
Uh,
Okay, moving on.
You gotta call for
You
this.
didn't ask for no's.
Pardon?
That's brand new news.
Do we have nays?
no,
Yay.
Got 3 nays. What do we have?
I'm a yes vote,
I'm a yes vote. Got 4 yeses and 3 nays.
motion carries.
That is correct.
do you want?
Okay,
Hang on just a second, y'all tell me what numbers we look.
you're not confused too, are you?
Uncapped at $2 a square foot.
Alright. Are you confused too?
Okay.
Okay,
There's no
50 cents a
cap.
foot, up to
Up to
12,000
12,000.
square foot.
You know what?
And you have 12,000
Chairman.
square.
yes, sir.
I'm just gonna tell you, you guys have just voted for financial, I mean, you have poison pilled, I mean, if you wanna just not have any commercial development in Wilson County, fine, that's fine. Because this is a great way to do it.
Yeah,
Because we are just not going to, you've reduced the fund, we were trying to increase from $800,000 a year, we was trying to get maybe 3 or 4 million a year out of it, possibly. Well, we just took it the other way, we took it close to zero, nobody's coming
I
to that.
disagree with you,
Hang
I
on,
think
hang on a
last
second
night
now.
proved it to
All
me.
y'all done is recommend, county commission let the vote.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah, now your recommendation, you may not like that, but you hadn't done anything
Can-
other
can
than
you go
recommend
back-
something.
Can you go back through that one more time, please?
Do what?
It's
Mo-
a motion at 50 cents per square foot up to 12,000 square feet. And then after you get, so 12,001 square feet and above with no cap on square footage is $2 per square foot.
No cap.
can I ask,
So $500,000 square feet would be how much? Run the calcs on my room, do you?
It'd be $1 million.
$1 million.
million square foot be 2 million, 5 million square foot, Amazon building be 10 million, be in Sumner County.
Come to Wilson
It's all
County,
right.
price tag.
What you, speak to that, Corey, please.
So. I'm gonna put a face on this, all right? So the first
There's
not,
already been a vote on
There
this.
has, but I'm just
And
asking,
I'm listening, listening.
chairs
We
asking
voted.
to,
the first Schneider Electric building, paid adequate facilities, $24,103.90. Under that proposal, they would have paid $1,004,156.
does any of the committee want to reconsider the motion that just passed?
No.
I certainly will. Now,
Okay?
that gives everybody on the county commission an opportunity to vote, and it can be amended on the
It does.
floor, so be it.
What else, Chris, do we need to address on adequate facilities?
I don't have anything unless you wanna bring up the residential side of it, but that wasn't currently on the table.
Okay, let's move on to PUD then.
Can I ask a question before you move on?
Pardon?
Can I ask a clarification question before we move
Absolutely.
on? I just wanna make sure I understand. Okay, so we went to the $52, is it still the split, 2/3, 1/3?
Yeah.
Cause I know that was brought up, so I just wanted to
It
make
is
sure
right
that
now.
was the
Let it-
case.
That's
Somebody-
just-
The committee wants to consider something else.
We gotta
Okay,
come up with revenue before we can spend additional revenue.
It's fine. I was just-
Agree with that, and what
Add it
goes
last
through the
month.
road is a wonderful idea.
Turned it down.
Does the committee want to consider 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 part of it adequate facilities? Yes, no?
I don't
Yep.
think we need to deal with that at this point.
Okay?
And let me say too, you know, part of our bond rating is based on how we spend our money and how we allocate it. You may wanna get Aaron Maynard involved before you start dividing that up differently. Just to make sure it doesn't affect our bond rating.
Exactly.
With that said,
Bond rate, we don't have money to build anything else.
that's true. With that said, we'll move on to PUD now.
Absolutely, yes, sir. So, what I have got for you is a draft ordinance. This is not written in the typical resolution form. For one, it hasn't been to the planning commission or recommended to the county commission yet. So it's not coming to you to be forwarded to the county commission or anything at this point. This is just a draft, which is easier for me to edit if there's any edits that come out of this meeting. I do not expect you all to digest all this tonight by any means.
Bless you.
I'm more than welcome to try and I'll go through it. The very first page is just the intent and purpose and kind of definitions of a PUD. I've reworded some of those to just make them more clear on kind of the goal of that. It's essentially just subsection or subparagraph A, B, and E, which have been added. A is removing design and permanent plan diversification and location of structures, and then it's to promote flexibility in land development regulation to encourage innovation so that growing demand for other housing may be met by a variety of type, design, layout, and dwellings. And that kind of follows some of the regulation that I put in place later. Subparagraph B is provide flexibility in architectural design, placement, and clustering of buildings, use of open area provisions of circulation facilities and amenities. And then C and D are the same. And then when we jump down to E, it's to allow increase in density beyond that is typically found in conventionally zoned tract to offset any reduction in developable lands dedicated as open space, i.e. land dedicated to open space. And then the rest of the PUD ordinance, until you get to the red tab in your packet that I've marked all these, the tabs mark where pages have been amended. This is the entire PUD document of the 20 pages in our zoning ordinance. I want you to have everything so you can see what's existing and then what I've striked out and what I've proposed to be added in. On this is page 199 of our zoning ordinance. It's section 5.5-107. The only thing that is changed on this page is paragraphs 3, 4, and 6. And then I omitted paragraph 5 just because it doesn't portray anymore. But in paragraph 3, it's for commercial and industrial PUDs. The minimum district is currently set at 15 acres. I've amended that down to 10 acres of land. And then for the residential purpose, it's any proposed residential PUD unit development must contain at least 100 acres was the requirement it's set. That is amended down to 30 acres. And I've got reasoning behind that with the numbers just to make them work in my mind, and I can amend anything. This is just my first stab at this based off that, because if you all recall in the previous meetings, we looked at other neighboring counties, their PUD ordinances. Some of them have acreage requirements. Rutherford and Sumner do not have acreage requirements at all in their PUDs. Ours is an overlay. I felt like still having some sort of acreage threshold was the best benefit for Wilson County, so we don't get 3-acre tracts with a PUD regulation for no reason. 30 acres was the base, and I'll explain the 30 acres when I get to the development criterion. Any proposed mixed-use plan unit development containing both residential and commercial or industrial-based zone district shall contain at least 35 acres of land. That's amended down from the 100-acre requirement as well. If you want to flip to the yellow tab, that is my next set of changes, and that is on page 206 of our current zoning ordinance. And the only thing that is being amended on this page is paragraph 9. It's for all planning and development proposals in which the total acreage is above 50 acres. A traffic study is prepared. I'm just striking the in which the total acreage is above 50 acres and making a traffic study required for any kind of proposal regardless of size. And then the following pages, it'll get you all the way to 210 before there's anything changes, but in between that, I mean, I don't want to skip over and say it's important, that's just the process for going through the planning commission and the county commission with how many days of public notice there has to be, how quickly the planning commission has to act on it, it's information such as that. I can go through that, but I've not changed any of that from how it's currently being regulated.
Let's move to the green tab to check.
Okay, so the last one is the green tab, which starts on page 210 in your handout, and this is section .55-301. It's density and bulk regulations, and this is within the planned unit residential zone. Following provisions shall apply. You all are probably familiar with the table that's currently there. I've struck all of that in the minimum criterion for finished masonry, outdoor private recreational space, and the gross acreage calculations that are currently there. The square footage size per home has been eliminated due to the existing plans that have been in and just the flexibility of it that it allows within a development. Lot size is also taken out of the consideration in the existing.
You struck all page 211.
All page 211, yes sir. And that flows into page 212, where then it starts with paragraph 1, and these are requirements that all PUDs, all residential PUDs would be required to have. And its density will be determined based on the total acreage available for the site. So all these numbers that I'm going to explain to you are based off the minimum, which is 30 acres, and this is how I got to some of my numbers. R1 base density will be 1.75 dwelling units per acre, single family only. And that is the 1.75 units if you do a 30-acre minimum PUD, as it is explained in the front of the presentation. That gets you to 50 units, which I feel like is probably close to the minimum amount of units you would want in a PUD just to be able to support the requirements and the HOA covenants that would come with that. And that's where the 30 acres and the 1.75 comes from. To give you all an apples to apples comparison, the current PUD, this is a little bit more dense than that. I have made it a little more rich for the county processes, but the current R1 PUD allows 1.44 units per acre. So this is 1.75. The R2 base density would be 2.75 dwelling units per acre, and that is also single family only. That is also a quarter of a unit dwelling unit jump from what the current R2 PUD would allow in our current resolution. I've also got a density for site can be increased by 0.15 dwelling units per acre with each additional 10% of preservation of total open space on site up to an additional 0.3 dwelling units per acre. So that's capped at 0.3 units regardless of how much additional open space you want to conserve. Areas not considered for open space, and this is a big thing because we currently consider some of these. as allowed, these would not be permitted in a PUD, and that's man-made stormwater detention or retention pond areas and steppe soils areas. Those would be required in most developments, but I'm not going to allow you to count that towards your open space requirement that you're required to preserve in these PUDs going forward to kind of help get a little bit more land out of them that's preserved
So the septic.
in perpetuity. Yeah, you can utilize it for the density count, but you have to preserve the open space. Number 2 is all structures within a PUD development will be 50% or more brick, stone, or finished masonry product as deemed acceptable by the planning commission. All dwelling units will have a minimum outdoor private space of no less than 200 square feet. This can be split with front and back outdoor private space areas per home. Requirement 4 would be building separation will be no less than 20 feet between structures with the minimum side and rear yards setbacks being 10 foot per lot. Where lots are proposed on perimeter of any planned unit development, base zone setbacks and lot sizes shall apply on those lots. And then it strikes a redundancy that's in our current one, and then it goes down to requirement 5 of PUDs. Pedestrian circulation routes, that has not changed. I've kept that. All pedestrian circulation routes within a PUD will be paved and they'll be ADA accessible. It does have the requirement for sidewalks in there as well. Requirement 6 does not change from our current requirements. A 20-foot wide transitional buffer. This is for all developments that have a PUD. There's a 20-foot wide transitional buffer that's to be incorporated with common open space for a planned unit residential unit abuts neighboring properties. And this is to protect the existing properties that are not within the PUD to give them kind of a transition between the new development and their existing lifestyle.
Did you say 20 or 25?
25 feet. Requirement 7, this is predominantly the same as the base paragraph, but I've added some language that makes it a little more, I think, lucrative for the county. It's all residential plan use development shall contain common open space areas, and I do have a requirement of not less than 30% of the total acreage of the site. So that means off the bat, you're going to have to preserve 30% of your total acreage. So if you've got a 100-acre site, ballpark, this is 30% off the top that is not to be permitted to be developed. And then those extra 10% thresholds, which gets us possibly up to 50% of the site, if they want a density bump.
What about soils? It's 30%.
Not considered. No, that's not considered as
Make
part
sure
of
I'm reading you right.
So to clarify, it'd more or less be what y'all term open space.
Yes, and then I've
Wouldn't
got
be streets, wouldn't be cul-de-sacs.
no streets, no cul-de-sacs, no retention ponds, no step soils areas. It has to be untouched open space. I would allow a development to put active amenities in some of that space to serve the development of the common public. Yes, that stuff could go in there, but no public infrastructure.
Hey, we gotta get softball coach, but go ahead.
Okay, and then, so under the open space requirements, I've slimmed these down to kind of meet with the size requirements that I went down from 100 acres to 30 acres. This is mended down to the first 50 dwelling units as opposed to the 100 that was there. And I took out one of the following. I put the following must be constructed with the first 50 units, so it's a non-negotiable now. It's a community clubhouse or centralized meeting space with adequate meeting space for 30 people must be proposed and incorporated in the final master development along with one of the following, and that's a sports complex, there's your softball field, a playground, or any other comparable neighborhood community facilities as approved. So that means the base zone for 50 units, which would be 30 acres, you're gonna get a clubhouse and one amenity in a development of 50 dwelling units or more.
Can you give us an example of other amenities other than a softball field?
Playground.
Playground, swimming pool.
Swimming pool with toilet, or if they wanna present something to the planning commission, well, that's part of the circular period, so that's a requirement.
Continue.
So then it goes down to subsection B, and then this used to be each subsequent 200 dwelling units. I amended it down to, this is for the first 100 dwelling units, the following must be constructed, and this is where a swimming pool would come in. So once you get to 100 units, I'm requiring you to put a swimming pool in addition to the clubhouse and the one amenity that you already have. So any development that gets to 100 units will have a base minimum, a swimming pool, one amenity, whether that be a sports court or a playground, and the clubhouse. It's not either or, it's all three.
Pardon? We go.
And then we're just getting controversial here.
Gotta find them truck.
So then it goes down, it was originally for the first 300 dwelling units, I just amended that for each subsequent 100 dwelling units, so this is getting you to 200 units at this point. An additional facility as listed above shall be incorporated into the development and the final master plan development plan. Additionally, for each subsequent 100 dwelling units, then the community clubhouse or centralized meeting space must accommodate an additional 10 people. I.e., at 200 dwelling units, the meeting space will have to accommodate 40 people. If you get to 300 units, it has to accommodate 50. These facilities shall be constructed as the dwelling unit thresholds that require them are being met. I'm not gonna have a letter of credit approval for a swimming pool that was required at 100 units and you're at 199 units. You're going to be required to build that before you're permitted your 101st unit. Upon completion of each phase, and a PUD will always be phased in the site plan. The planned residential unit and these facilities shall be dedicated to the property owners association. The development covenants and restrictions shall indicate that the property owners association is responsible for upkeep and maintenance of these facilities through perpetuity. Paragraph D is where it gets into, it used to be for every 500 dwelling units. I've amended that down to 300 dwelling units if we get a development of that size. This is where land dedication for county facilities comes in, whether it be for a WEMA station, a convenience center, schools, any government facility deemed as necessary for the infrastructure requirements that proposal may undertake. That is the same language that we currently have. I've just amended it down from 500 units to 300 units if we get to that size.
But you don't have an acre requirement.
Quick question,
Acreage no, it could be, no,
You can put a police substation or a fire station there, but you can't get to school.
correct. I think a fire station right now on STEP system, if I go back from Weeman, I think that's roughly 2.5 acres is what it take to accommodate that. I could look into, I know the schools is probably 40, 50, 60 acres, I think, for a school. So I mean,
Let's
we
go
can get that.
let's go through this and those questions later. Please, come back.
All the other requirements, I've moved to paragraph 10, so I've struck in that, I've just moved it up in the ordinance to kind of call out the 30% requirement off the top.
Okay,
8 is the traffic improvements determined by the traffic study, and, thought I had in there, I do need to amend that paragraph. Paragraph 8 not only needs to include the traffic study, but it needs to call out, deemed by the Wilson County Road Commission as well. Paragraph 9, all utility services within a residential PUD will be underground. And then it's, paragraph 11 is, which would now be 10, where land dedications or facility construction is proposed to address various public or governmental needs. The particular agency affected, whether it be the director of roads, superintendent of schools, they will have input, they will have a process to input for the PUD, as is any other zoning, but we will call them immediately. And that is everything with the PUD. The next section is the fire and emergency services. Not an expert in WEMA, I'm not gonna get into that, but I think it's still stands concurrent with.
same thing.
Yes, with what we're proposing there.
Comment,
And I'm not expecting to digest all this at once, but I will take any sort of criticisms you have at this point.
Well, it's not really a comment, it's more of a question because we have this problem. You mentioned the convenience center a while ago could be a consideration.
Absolutely, yeah, if the county deems it necessary. It's lands to be dedicated to the county, I can't dictate what those are used for,
We
that's for
we
the
all know
county to
we're
make
short
that
of
decision.
convenience centers and we certainly need some in the west end of the county badly.
Yeah,
And I never had considered it coming from a source like that.
to me, it looked real good, what's consideration of the committee.
I will outline probably the biggest talking point on this would be the density that I've changed just based on maybe some of the design criteria that I've taken out, lot size. I've left separation in there, cause I think that's important to our WEMA staff about 20-foot separation. Once you get closer than that, you start getting into firewall requirements for residential developments. It's just not something I don't think we're currently wanting to deal with at this point.
We have a fire marshal, right?
Yes.
He's where? The beach.
Chairman, could I make a motion to send it to the planning commission, get their take on it?
We have
It's
a
lot-
motion, we
it's
have
a
a
good
motion,
job.
we have a
Staff.
motion to send this to the planning commission, we have a second from our new commissioner over here.
Been on this committee for.
Do we have any further discussion?
What are you gonna talk about?
Do we have any further discussion?
The only thing that jumped off the page to me is the 30 acres. I just think it's gonna be, for a PUD, it's gonna be very expensive for a PUD to go in just for 30 acre development. I personally think it needs to be at
That's,
least
that's
40.
probably judgment call, he's gonna have to
Yeah.
make somebody come in.
But you know better than me.
Any other comments? All in favor, say aye. Opposed?
Do wanna just outline, I'll take this to planning commission. I'll put it on my August agenda. Can't guarantee that they'll make a recommendation in the first month, just to it and digest. After they make a recommendation to the county commission, it will come back to you all to forward it to the county commission. And if you have any amendments from there, I'll present those to the county commission.
Chairman, do you think it's, I mean, we had some public comments on this, A1 struck in this.
Yeah, there's.
Thank you.
Thank you,
It was-
I appreciate it. I was wondering, thank you.
Oh, I guess I should, sorry, yeah.
No, I just wanna make sure they know, because skip over that, you went through.
If A1 wasn't struck, the East Denver County would succeed for the rest of the county. I'm sure.
It's gonna be similar to a Civil War.
There you go. I've asked, if we don't have any other business, I've asked Chris to take just a minute and give us a real quick briefing how we came up with the commercial side on the land. Will you take?
I can. Before I get to that, I've got 2 points of information that I've just asked to bring. There is a height ordinance that is starting the process. I'm gonna go to BOZA because that's where it originated. They're not voting. I'm just letting them look at the draft. It'll go through the proper channels with planning commission and you all. Just want you to be aware that there's a height ordinance that has started circulating. And I've also been asked to look at, the contractor's storage yard again. Not with necessarily taking it out of some districts, just to clean up some of the verbiage, maybe to remove the term office, because we have office that's allowed in every commercial district, and then for some reason, we also have contractor's office, which is in the ordinance as definitions as well. I don't have a way to delineate whether it's a real estate office or a contractor's office. If somebody comes in and tells me they have an office use, it's gonna fall within commercial. So there's been a request to clean up some of that confusion with just the definition part of contractor's yard. So that'll probably end up back before you in the coming months as well. The chair has asked me to bring, this is what the land use plan, we had a corridor assignment to call out commercial corridors in the county, and I went through each corridor and looked through for kind of defining features. This is what was sent to GNRC, and I went through each corridor, and this is how GNRC amended their most recent version 4. This is done on the version 3 now, is what I'm correctly done. This is how they amended version 4 based off this, and I went through each corridor and tried to do an average parcel depth. That is harder in some instances, because one, I don't have a guarantee that those parcels are gonna remain that way. So in a lot of corridors, I used existing county roads and physical boundaries where I could. For example, on 109, East Old Regardo Road is used as the most eastern boundary on that side, and then on the west side, Woods Ferry is used. And the core property on the west side. So that is a very defined boundary on the west side. It goes from Woods Ferry and the core. The east side does have, once you get north of the core property, it's 1,200 feet off the existing state right of way for a commercial corridor on the 109. Highway 231 is a little more difficult. There's not a lot of defining boundaries. The biggest one I have is on the west side of 231. There's neighborhood commercial
We're
proposed.
talking about south or north?
North, 231 north. There's it's 1,800 feet off. I know that seems excessive for a commercial corridor. 1,800 feet in that instance is the length of Dump Road. So most of that commercial corridor that's there, that's cited, is the county dump, which probably is not going to change, but it gives direction for that property. On the east side of 231 North there, there's no direction for commercial. It's cut off, it's a hard cutoff there. Once you get farther up, I think it's where Belotes Ferry comes in. It follows Old Hunters Point Pike as your most eastern boundary, and then on the west side, it's 600 feet off of the existing corridor. 70 North and Trousdale Ferry are looped together. It follows Spring Creek to the west, to the eastern boundary. I utilize Spring Creek as the boundary because you've got 30 foot from top of bank on each side, plus the width of the stream that TDEP is not going to let anybody disturb anyway, so I felt like that was a good hard buffer that would coordinate commercial from the residential use in that area. I will mention 98% of that area is within Lebanon's UGB boundary, so if any development were to occur there, it would most likely be through an annexation process, and the county wouldn't have any say anyways, but if a developer chooses to develop in the county, we have that direction there. 70 eastbound, as you leave town, on the east side of the road, it's 800 feet off, and that goes all the way down to Poplar Hill Road. On the west side, there's no footage distance. It follows the railroad tracks is what I used, and that goes all the way down to Lindsley Road. That was the first road down there. Once you get south of Lindsley, you get into significant FEMA floodplain for that corridor. I didn't see a need to have commercial development over under your floodplain. Last corridor is 231 south. This is probably the one I'm getting the most pushback from at the moment, just due to the depth of the average parcels. But as you leave the city of Lebanon on the east side, it's 2,000 feet off the right of way. That's the majority of the average depth of the quarry property that's through there. It also utilizes Powell Grove Road as a boundary, and then once Powell Grove Road hits Old Murfreesboro Road on the east side, or not Powell Grove.
Pound Road.
That's on 70.
No, not Powell Grove.
Rocky Valley.
Thank you.
Yes, it is.
Rocky Valley Road. Thank you, Commissioner. Rocky Valley Road, and once Rocky Valley Road hits Old Murfreesboro Road, that becomes the dividing line, and then it extends roughly 1,000 feet off of the existing corridor. On the east side, it's roughly 1,500 feet off until you get to Atkinson Road. Atkinson Road jogs, but from the 231 corridor back to the back of it, if you draw as the crow flies, it's 2,000 feet off. So that includes all of Atkinson Road and south, down to where you get to the Cedars of Lebanon Road. And then there is a gap in there once you get to the state park, all the way down to Vesta Road, or south of Vista Road. It's Jennings Pond Road is where the commercial corridor starts back up. And then on the east and west sides, everything south of Jennings Pond Road is 500 feet off for commercial corridor all the way down to the county line. That is the map that was submitted to Jessica. Chair wanted me to just bring that to you so you all have knowledge of how those commercial corridors came about whenever you see them on future maps as part of the land use process.
I understand this is all future commercial, it's not changing anything right now, everything's grandfathered like this. And it is for future commercial. So, any questions? Any questions?
The next steering committee for the land use plan is August 1st. I need direction from them, or guidance from them, that they're confident that they can forward this out to the public for the public's review. If I get that recommendation from them, the public meeting will be September 25th. If I do not get a recommendation at that August 1st meeting, I will come back to you with a new deadline, because it's gonna push all my deadlines. If I can stick with the deadline I have, I don't have any grace period left, but if I can stick to the deadline I have and get everything rolling, I can get the land use plan adopted this calendar year. Any other delays, it'll be in the first quarter of 2026. That's
Any other-
where I'm at.
This is for information only, any other business come from the committee? No motion. Motion to adjourn. Adjourn.
Chris,